Hi everybody, and welcome to Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, YouTube, and of course Facebook. I want to welcome our viewers in Barbados and all over the world. I am Joanne Haig. Now, it's GCF Fridays, as we all know, and we've got a special show lined up for you. But however, it might be a shorter show today because we are awaiting a press conference by the Attorney General, the Honorable Dale Ford, MP for St. Joseph, and Dale Marshall, my apologies, the Honorable Dale Marshall, and we are awaiting word as to the time of that press conference, but what we have here so far, it is expected to start at 11:30. So we will carry on the show until we get word from the Cabinet Office as to the exact time of that press conference. So please stand by, because it's a very important press conference. And speaking of that press conference, I'm sure what's on the minds of all Barbadians, as it is on mine, it is the level of crime that we are experiencing today. What we're hearing every day, another person, another gun incident constantly happening, and we need to do something about it. Not just the government of Barbados, but every citizen. It is my belief that there are more right-minded, law-abiding citizens here in this country than they're not. And I believe that those who are out there seeking to do damage or to hurt others in that way, there are more of us who are trying our best to do things the right way, and they are outnumbered, which means that we as a community should get together, assist the police where possible, and start your community watch groups. You live in a neighborhood, get to know your neighbors, get a WhatsApp group going, put cameras on your house, on your houses. It's not that expensive, and for those of you who can't afford, perhaps those who can't afford and living opposite can spot a camera or two on your house, and perhaps maybe even share the link for those cameras. So there are things that we can do. I'm looking forward to hearing what the Attorney General has to say, and I'm hoping that Barbadians understand. Again, this is just my opinion, and you have yours. Understand that this does not only relate to what the police can do, what the government can do. This is about what we can do as citizens to protect ourselves and figure out what is triggering off, no pun intended, these acts of violence by guns in particular. Something is triggering it off. People seem to be very angry about a lot of things. Yes, I know there's job losses, and we're just coming out of a pandemic. People are frustrated, but we need to, for want of a better set of words, cool yourself. You need to relax, cease and settle. This things can be settled in a different way. You don't have to take somebody's life as a result. In addition to that being on my mind, again, I said before in the last show, and I will mention it in every show if I get the opportunity, is to remind persons that we need to look after our elderly, your mother, your father, your grandparents. I'm particularly speaking to the children and the grandchildren who are currently abusing their parents. This is not a good thing. Your parents did everything they could to look after you, to feed you, to nurture you, and it is your duty to return that favor. Even if you, your mother or your father did not speak and the relationship might have been a bit rocky, the Bible says, and even if you don't believe in the Bible, but it does say, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long in the land. And we are hearing too often about this elder abuse, and it sickens me to know that you have parents who cannot help themselves, and particularly those who cannot help themselves. I'm not talking about the relationship you have with your parent and is not great, and your mother is still working, or your grandmother is still working, and y'all don't talk. Maybe that's something you need to work out. But you see, the moment that that parent cannot help themselves, it is important that you put your differences one side and you help your mother, you help your father. It is not about their pension check. It is not about what's in their will. It is not about what you can get. It does not work that way, or should not work that way. I feel very passionate about these things, and I see them happening. and a lot of experiences, personal experiences from myself and even from others, family members, cousins tell me about what's happening to their loved ones in terms of who they married and their parents. Every family seems to have a story about elder abuse. Every family, unless you're a one child, like my producer colleague Prita Aline, that you were an only child. But you see, when you have brothers and sisters, things happen, and I'm begging you, please work together. Work together for the sake of your loved ones. Now, on to what we have today for the show. As you know, it is GCF Fridays, and we're going to have Dr. Elon Cadogan, we're going to have Jamie Paul, as well as Nicole Austin. They're going to be joining us today for a discussion on climate change. We're going to obviously focus on water, and you know what that means. You do have to call us during that segment if you want an opportunity to receive some dwarf trees today and some herb trays. Those are on the table today. Those at the Farm Garden, or should I say the New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden today. But before we get to GCF, we have back with us again Dr. Kirk Douglas, Director of the Center of Biosecurity Studies at the UWI. He will be talking with us about monkeypox, but we also will be talking about zoonosis, Zoonoses Day. Now, we don't even know what that means. I had to Google it this morning, but yesterday apparently was Zoonoses Day. And zoonoses, basically, zoonoses are diseases which can be transmitted to humans from animals, and who better to talk about this than who we just mentioned, Dr. Kirk Douglas. As we know, monkeypox is here in the Caribbean. You need to stay tuned. Do not move from that screen. Do not move from in front of that computer. Monkeypox is in the Caribbean. We need to know what's happening. We want to know how we catch it. I certainly am looking forward to Dr. Kirk Douglas explaining it in a way that your 2-year-old can understand, and he does an excellent job at doing that. So remember, call us 228-5563, 228-5562. If you want to send us a WhatsApp message, 228-5562, or if you're just following us on social media, you need to leave your comments there, and we certainly will share them with the public or with the agency, because remember, this is Face It and Fix It, as we continue to help you face things, agencies to face things, and we here on the station, at the station, CBC TV 8, we want to assist you in fixing it. When we come back, we will be speaking with Dr. Kirk Douglas after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Our first guest is no stranger to this show. Dr. Kirk Douglas, Director of the Center for Biosecurity Studies at UWI, is joining us. He spoke to us a couple of weeks ago about monkeypox, and he's back here because guess what? It's here in the Caribbean, unfortunately. Welcome to the show once again, Dr. Douglas.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to you, Joyanne.
How are you doing this morning?
I am doing pretty good. I am a bit in pain, but I'm trudging through because I think this is important. I think Barbadians need to know more about monkeypox, know more about zoonoses as well, because there are a number of other things on the horizon that we need to be aware of, and also try to see if we can put things in motion to prepare for.
Well, speaking of that, can you give us a background exactly what is zoonoses? Because a lot of people probably now hearing the word for it the first time.
Okay, sure. Zoonoses are, as you mentioned in the introduction, these are diseases that are transmitted from animals to human beings. And we know of these. It's just a term persons may not be familiar with. So we've all heard of leptospirosis. That is a zoonosis. We've heard of obviously dengue. Dengue is also a zoonosis. Zika, chikungunya. So all of these diseases are actually in reservoirs in animals, different animals, but they're present in animals. And by chance, when they get the opportunity to infect human beings, then at that stage, when it infects human beings, it is considered a zoonosis.
Okay, so in particular now, the zoonosis that we will be discussing this morning certainly will not be Zika or dengue. It's going to be monkeypox. So I want you to really simplify how, because the first thing everybody's going to want to know, how can I avoid catching monkeypox? How do we catch this thing?
Well, there are two major modes of transmission: contact with bodily fluids, and this could be pus, especially the pus-filled pox. As you go through the course of the disease, you will manifest a rash, and that those raised bumps will start to, as we say in Barbadian terms, turn out, and so they become inflamed. Then people may then start to pick at them, and then obviously they fill with pus, and it starts to ooze, etc. Any contact with the scab, the exudate from the pock, that is very high risk because it contains high levels of the virus. Also, there has been some discussion and also some studies have shown respiratory route as well, but droplet and not the airborne type of transmission. And you could remember with COVID, there was this concern of whether or not, it was large droplet or very small droplet. And this has implications in terms of spread. So, for instance, you come into a room with COVID and you leave after 2 or 3 hours, that SARS-CoV-2 virus is still present in that room and you can still be infected, even though the infected person is no longer there. With monkeypox, it's a bit different. You need very close, intimate, prolonged contact to have a high risk for transmission of monkeypox. And then also contact with infected clothing or the actual person, changing of bed linen, that type of stuff. So all around, I think it comes back down to very basic infection hygiene control. It is all about ensuring that your hygiene is A1, A class, sorry, and making sure that you are protecting yourself, you are aware of your surroundings, and so that you don't allow yourself to become exposed.
So, how long does it take before you actually see the pox coming out on your skin? You're in contact with someone, you caught monkeypox. Take us through the whole process. How does it start? You're on mute. I'm not hearing. I'm
Sorry,
hearing you now. I'm
can you hear
hearing
me?
you now. I'm hearing you now.
Yes, so what happens is when you become infected, there's something called the incubation period. So when a pathogen, and in this case monkeypox, you become infected, it takes a while before you present symptoms. And this could be, swollen lymph nodes, this could be fever, this could be malaise, even vomiting. Malaise is just bad feels, as we say in Barbadian terminology. And then you may start to get a rash a bit later. And it varies. The incubation period for monkeypox has a wide variation from as short as 5 days to as long as 21 days, but is usually between, I think, 6 and 14 days. But it is anyway still a long incubation period. So you could imagine being exposed as much as 3 months or 3 weeks prior, and then you can then start to manifest symptoms. So it is a disease that then proves a challenge to control because the person may not know when they are infectious or even if they're infected, or even exposed as well. So that provides a challenge in terms of breaking the transmission chains. So that's why testing is going to be important, in terms of finding out not only if the person is infected, but predominantly if the person is infectious. That is what is of concern because you want to break those transmission chains. And once you can break the transmission chains, then I mean the virus is going to peter out, but you have to ensure that you can definitely stop it within its tracks. And that is the concern I think at the WHO at the moment. I know they were considering whether or not to elevate monkeypox, current outbreak, to the PH EIC, which is the Public Health Emergency of International Concern. And that is just a signal at the global health security level to ramp up the surveillance and to ramp up the awareness of this disease across the globe. And I think as it's starting to evolve, what we're finding is that children and pregnant women and those who are immunocompromised are particularly at risk. And this is why the CDC, the WHO, they're recommending that the vaccination and also the stockpiling of antivirals against pox viruses such as monkeypox is initiated because you have to prepare. You can't wait until it reaches that zenith and then to act. So everything has to be in order, and you have to be.
Well, okay, so I just want to stick with the transmission part still. So let's say that you had monkeypox, there was nothing on your skin to show, you didn't even know. I came in contact with you, intimate contact with you, but there are no pox on your skin. There's no oozing. There's nothing. I am still at risk of catching it, even though you don't have any sores on your skin. I'm at risk.
So, as I mentioned before, the two modes of transmission that they're seeing at the moment is contact with bodily fluids. So the bodily fluid can be the pus, or it could be some other bodily fluid that you come in contact, blood or sexual
Sexual
transmission, and
intercourse.
that
Okay.
yes, that is something that is
Kissing, kissing
emerging.
as kissing as well. Saliva.
I will have to check, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. But I know if you have a break in the skin for sure, then the risk of transmission will definitely be higher.
Okay, so no sitting on toilets. You wouldn't get it if there's no breakage in the skin to your touching a doorknob, things that we hear that you're at the airport and everybody's pulling open that same door, pulling open a car door that somebody had monkeypox, and those types of things. Not that easy to catch.
No, no, it's not as easily transmissible as people may think. However, I would reiterate good hygiene practices, washing your hands, ensuring whenever you touch a dirty surface, especially if you go into any public or common bathroom space, it is always wise to be very careful how you open it and how you close it, and if you touch it, to ensure that you wash your hands and you dry your hands in exiting. That is just to me good hygiene practice, and it not only stops, for instance, monkeypox, but several other infectious agents. And I think it's just a lifestyle change that COVID-19 has presented to the world, and I think we would be wise to take it up as a lifestyle practice more so than I'm just doing this for COVID-19.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we're going to ask you how there's something that if you're so intimate, you can only catch it when you're intimate with someone. How, in God's name, does it jump from animal to human? When we come back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. If you are now joining us, we are speaking with Dr. Kirk Douglas, Director, Center for Biosecurity Studies, UWI, and we are talking about monkeypox. We've been hearing about it, and we sat here and we said, okay, that's not anywhere in the Caribbean, but no, it's here. Before the break, I asked him, how does a human being actually get monkeypox from an animal? If he's saying to me that you need to be in close contact when it's spread human to human, but it jumps from animal to human, what kind of close contact are we talking about, animal to human?
The contact that occurs in terms of the zoonotic transmission of monkeypox to humans, it happens in terms of aerosols. So if you breathe in air that is contaminated with dust, that's been contaminated with urine or feces from an infected animal, then a human being can actually acquire monkeypox infection. And this occurred in 2003. And this was, I think, the first incident or the recorded cases of monkeypox in the US back in 2003. And what had happened, this was through the pet trade. So, in terms of wildlife and trade of wildlife, because what has really happened, and that is what is really pushing a lot of the outbreaks that we are seeing across the globe, is a change in human behavior. Before, humans were not as fascinated with exotic animals as pets. And so, what has happened, I think, within the last 3 or 4 decades, you've had an increased appetite for exotic animals and for exotic animals as pets. And so, for instance, in that 2003 outbreak in the US, you had a shipment of Gambian poached rats. And these were exported from Ghana all the way into the US. And that consignment of poached rats were then in contact with prairie dogs, which are also sold as exotic pets. And what happened is you had transmission from the Gambian rats to the prairie dogs. And then when these prairie dogs were sold and went out through America, then you have persons who were owners of these pets then became infected. So that's how it can move from animals to humans. and then you can have human to human transmission. So that is the very important thing about to note about zoonosis. And that's one of the dangerous things too about COVID-19, because people think that COVID-19 is exclusively human, but no, it is not. It is actually a zoonosis, which means you can actually have reverse zoonosis. So you can have the situation where a person with COVID can actually transmit COVID back into an animal. And that is why it's very difficult or almost impossible to eradicate zoonotic agents such as COVID-19 by vaccination. What you can do is like what you can do for influenza in terms of managing the severity of the outbreaks.
And would you have to follow the same protocols, human to human, as you would now for human to animal? Sanitize, because there are people who love their animals and their dogs, and the dogs. I love dogs, but I draw the line where we have animals licking our faces, my face, and stuff like that. So if I had COVID and I have my dog right up in my face, and he's licking my face, then obviously he or she, that animal can catch COVID if I have it.
Yes, the animal can contract COVID-19. And it's not to say that the infection will be, debilitating or, very severe for the animal, but the risk of that animal becoming infected is actually there. And as I say, this this spread of zoonotic infections and outbreaks is something that has been continuing to increase over time. And I believe in the future we will continue to see it. Just today, this morning, I actually got some information about two suspected cases of Marburg virus in Ghana. And this is a concern because, again, this is one of these zoonotic threats that are very highly feared across the globe. And it's on the level of Ebola. It has a mortality rate of about 88%, which means that 88% of the persons, up to 88% of the persons who actually are infected die. And that is really a staggering statistic. And what we are seeing with that particular virus is that in East Africa, North, sorry, East, South, and Central Africa is where you would find Marburg. But what has developed, I think, within the last year or so, Guinea in Western Africa and now Ghana in West Africa, they've recorded Marburg cases. The two suspected cases are actually now being confirmed in Senegal, but we await the word from the WHO on that. But that just illustrates how um, connected the world is at the moment with global travel. So, for instance, a person from Ghana can leave from Ghana, go into London, Heathrow, or even Gatwick, and that has occurred for other diseases, not for Marburg, but that is when you develop bridges, air bridges. These are the things you have to consider. And I know Barbados was also thinking having a direct flight from Ghana to Barbados, but these are some things that at the public health level that we will have to take a very, very close look at in terms of building systems that can actually handle these types of outbreaks.
So Marburg, because I was just looking because I wasn't sure if you said Marburg, but Marburg, Marburg virus, and 88% deadly. What you're saying in terms of people. So, but basically, it's not as transmissible as COVID-19.
No, so it is not as transmissible as COVID-19 or Ebola, but again, contact with infected bodily fluids is one method of transmission. Just like Ebola as well, you have to don your protective uh, personal equipment, etc., and the same contingency efforts that you will put into place, you will have to do the same. But it's to understand your risk when you do certain actions in terms of, for instance, increasing trade, in terms of increasing travel from different areas. There are certain biosecurity risks that come inherently with that type of development and activity as well. So you just have to be conscious of it and you have to prepare because when you do those types of activities, you then expose yourself, expose the country to these types of potential um, um, events. So I think what we are trying to advocate for at the center is for the entire region to develop more robust systems. I know for COVID-19, most health ministries across the Caribbean think that they are very prepared for all of the other diseases, but we need to understand, like in the same cricket conversation, you have to play each ball on its merit. Not every single pathogen will behave the same way. And even for monkeypox, let's take this for instance, we have never seen monkeypox being transmitted by the sexually transmitted route. But in 2022, that is how it's being transmitted. And so these things will continue to evolve and shift because our behaviors are shifting, the environment is changing, and so we have to continue to be aware and adapt our systems to what is going on the ground.
Okay, we gotta want to move down to bird flu, but before we do that, which animals are we talking about when you said in 2003 when they recorded the first case of was it monkeypox? We were talking about when our animal lovers are here watching now, and the children got their pet turtles, and which animals are we really more cautious about as it relates to monkeypox, or is it all animals in terms of our pets?
But in terms of the pets, I would say rodents are definitely high risk. If you have any rodent, maybe even guinea pigs, um, well, in that particular case in 2003, we had the Gambian poach rat, which is a really exotic big rat with a poach. And for some reason, people are enamored by it and they want it as a pet in their home. Whilst in Barbados, rats and mice we definitely don't want in our home. Far less more to keep them in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
And then also squirrels. So the other thing is that we don't know then the the capacity for our wildlife, or well, definitely the companion pets that you have, like cats and dogs. I'm not sure if there are any cases within those animals, but same with cats, and cats like to go and hunt rats and mice, then I would say that you would want to be extremely careful. But again, I reiterate that when you have contact with these animals, or you have contact with surfaces, inanimate surfaces that are going to be contaminated, you have to always put your health first, and you have to protect yourself.
Well, basically, that's everybody keep their surroundings clean, and let's keep the rodent population down. I think we have an image here that we want to discuss about bird flu or avian influenza. What are the symptoms? What is the incubation period, treatment, and how is it detected?
Okay, so the avian influenza, as it is a zoonosis, it has the similar symptoms to the human influenza. So there are, I think, four or five different types of influenza. So you have humans, you have bird, you have you have horse or equine influenza, you have swine flu, um, and I think there's another one that escapes my memory at the moment, but all of these are just the same not the same influenza, but yes, the influenza virus, but different subtypes that then infect human beings. So with avian influenza, there are some predominant subtypes, and when you speak of influenza viruses, you speak of them as a subtype. So H1N1, that is a human subtype of influenza, and also a subtype of swine influenza that actually is able to then to infect humans and also infect pigs. And pigs share a very interesting story. Within pigs, you have two types of receptors, and we would have heard of this talk about receptors. And receptors just the virus's key for getting into the cell of a human being. So the key that the virus is going to use to get into your cell. So for swine flu viruses, or well, within pigs, they have two types of, let's say there are two types of locks. And when you have infection with avian influenza and human influenza or swine influenza, you run the risk of these viruses swapping information or RNA, and then you have a totally new virus. And this is what people are calling the pandemic threat. So we are thinking or believing that a pandemic, avian or just an influenza pandemic, is looming because of these risks. And this is the difficulty with zoonotic diseases because you cannot vaccinate the entire human population because within the animal population, you also still have infection. And that is the problem because you will then have a new variant of which it will be totally useless. The vaccines will be totally useless against. So you have to ensure that you have good animal farm biosecurity. You also have to have good biosecurity within your home and also within the workplace and also within the hospital setting as well. So these are very, very important things.
Okay, so I want to ask, as it relates to the university, what has the Center for Biosecurity been focusing on when it comes to zoonoses and us here in the Caribbean? What's your main focus?
Well, I think in our last newsletter, which we had circulated last week, we had highlighted two zoonoses. This would have been monkeypox for obvious reasons, and also avian influenza, because avian influenza, we believe, is also another threat to the region, especially this summer, because whilst we were in the pandemic, we had an outbreak of avian influenza and spread from Southeast Asia to Africa to India to Europe, all the way into North America with Canada and also the USA. And why that is important is because it is at this particular time of the year on the migratory journey. So the migratory birds on their migratory journey to South America, they have to transit or travel through the Caribbean. And when we are at this point of time of the year, then the risk for severe weather systems, storms, hurricanes, is increased. And what happens as those birds are journeying down to South America and they encounter any storm activity, like for instance, the storm activity that we would have seen, I believe, last week, then you would have seen some curtailing of the journey down to South America. Birds will come down and rest in the Caribbean islands. And in Barbados, that's what they do. Actually, I think last, actually, beginning of this week, I saw about just about 20 migratory ducks just flying as I was driving to work. And I know that they're here, and this is usually the time that they will come onto the island. The risk that is posed is that perhaps infected birds, migratory birds from North America, so Canada or the USA, will come into Barbados, come into St. Lucia, and some of the other Caribbean countries on their way down. And they can then introduce the birds. Then there's a possibility that some resident bird species can become infected, for instance, the cattle egret, and even the other birds such as the sparrows, the wood doves, and the blackbirds as well. And so why this is important is that what they're experiencing in the US and Canada is they're experiencing large die-offs with wild birds and also in poultry as well, because this is very devastating for poultry. And this could decimate the poultry industry if it is not stopped and if it is introduced. So it is very important for farmers, especially, to be aware to ensure that their biosecurity, farm biosecurity, is heightened and increased. And it doesn't really take much. All you really need is to ensure that whatever you're taking into your pen is sanitized and is clean. This could include just having a boot dip on the outside of your pen, just a shallow pan filled with water, filled with a couple um, capfuls of bleach to ensure that you will sanitize your boot before you enter your pen. And I think what is even better is if you can actually have an extra pair of boots and have them in the pen. So those boots will remain in the pen and you will take off your dirty boots on one side and then you would, before you enter the pen, put on those what you call the pen boots and use only those boots within the actual pen and clean and sanitize all of the water systems, the ponds, the feed trays, all of that. And that is good hygiene practices. And this can prevent Salmonella, Campylobacter, and several other enteric diseases as well within the poultry that can be transmitted to humans. So I think that this is something that, in terms of awareness, will need to be done, and we are very well prepared to try to do this for small farmers and also the large poultry producers as well on the island.
Final question, though, before you go. There are a number of animal sanctuaries right across Barbados. I mean, not Barbados, the Caribbean. One or two here in Barbados, I should say. I see pictures of people hugging snakes, doing this. How safe is that? And have we done enough to educate the owners of these sanctuaries as they interact with these rare animals? And when I say rare, rare to the country, because, you may see a snake or two here, not sure how it got here, but people may call and say, come and pick up the snake. It's picked up. It's then at a sanctuary. People come and visit, hold it, take pictures with these animals. What message would you like to give people who own these sanctuaries right across the Caribbean?
Well, the first message I would say is that that is a pathway for infectious diseases. This is the trade of wildlife. Um, and also, there is also some activity of smuggling. And so there are two not pathways, but two methods. You take the legal route or the illegal route. So you can smuggle eggs, like for snakes, or you smuggle eggs for iguanas, or even birds as well. So you don't actually go through the legal channels, which would be involving vet services for the ministries of agriculture across the Caribbean. And that poses a problem because then you're introducing an animal into an ecosystem that, if it is allowed to escape, then becomes an invasive alien species. And we are seeing some of this, for instance, with the ringneck parakeets. This is something that I know farmers are very, very passionate and emotional about, but this comes down to ensuring that people do the right things and using the right channels to source your animals, to ensure these animals are quarantined, tested for different specific pathogens, so that when you do bring them in and you have them in your sanctuary, that they pose as little threat to human health as possible. And the release of these animals into the world is also a grave concern because some pet owners may be very well meaning. They may see a really nice animal and they're smitten, they pay for it, they bring it home, but things happen, things change. And so before you may have been able to provide for this pet without a problem, but circumstances may change to the point where you're no longer able to do that. And then you're faced with the responsibility and the burden of caring for an animal that you cannot. And so some people, they may take the option of releasing it into the wild. And that can present a problem because it can become an agricultural pest and it can also kill other wildlife and outcompete other wildlife, especially in delicate island ecosystems like what we have. So what I would say is that if you're going to do that, make sure that you take the legal route, make sure that you follow protocol, because if you don't do that, it can have repercussions not right away, but sometimes 2, sometimes 3 years later, it can really have a very negative effect and impact on the country.
I want to thank you so much. And for me, what I have learned in this segment, how to fix this mainly is through proper hygiene. Number one, continue to practice proper hygiene. Animals being transported illegally, it's a no-no because it carries these diseases. And the other thing I learned is make sure you're not that intimate with your animals and treat them as pets. Just limit the level of intimacy with your animals. Let's not break any rules in the Bible here and now. And then that, on a serious note, can cause a lot of problems. I want to thank you so much for being here.
We still have to strengthen the national biosecurity systems. So that is a very key factor. So right now, I think that we can improve right around the Caribbean in terms of our biosecurity systems. Risk analysis, risk communication, these are very, very important things because it's all well and good for the technical people to understand, okay, these are problems. But if the wider community do not understand or does not understand the risks or the inherent risk and know them in such a way that it influences their behaviors, then it is still a problem because you have all the knowledge in one area or siloed among certain people, but it has to be transmitted to the to basically John public because those are the people on the ground that are creating the risky behavior that you need to identify and you tag and you change it as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kirk Douglas. When we come back, GCF Fridays after the break. Thank you. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. It's Friday, GCF Fridays. We have with us Dr. Elon Cadogan, Jamie Paul, hydrogeologist, Barbados Water Authority, and Nicole Austin, water quality technologist, Barbados Water Authority. I'm getting a little feedback here. Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you. I am getting some feedback in my ears and I really need it rectified because I can't hear. Thank you. Still there. All right, let's rally through this as we get that technical problem sorted out. I want to thank you guys for taking the time for coming here because I know Barbados Water Authority and your staff, you're always very busy. We have here, thank you very much, the problem has been rectified. Dr. Elon Cadogan, GCF National Project Coordinator, Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, always joins us every other Friday. Jamie Paul, my good friend, yes, and Nicole Austin, and I say good friends because those of you who thought I knew so much at the Barbados Water Authority, I did, but guess what? They taught me. Jamie Paul, every time I needed to know something about where does this water come from, how does it work, she did a very good job explaining it to me and to the public. Similarly, Nicole Austin, at that time, she was working in sewage, and Nicole used to explain to children that they could get everything nailed down in like 2 seconds, she would explain. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Elon, I'm going to save you for the middle somehow, but I want to start with Jamie Paul. Jamie, a hydrogeologist, Barbados Water Authority. Most people believe that when the rain falls for a really long time, it just falls into some big reservoir straight to your home. Kindly explain to the public the process.
Not a problem. Great to be here. Thank you, Joyanne. Um, no, the water does not automatically fall into our reservoirs. When the water hits the surface, when the rain hits the surface in Barbados, it can take up to 3 months for it to reach the water table. So Barbados, remember, is made up of limestone, and it is this beautiful karstic system. So there are all these tiny holes and fissures and conduits. And if you can think of it, it moves very slowly down the earth, down into the ground, and it is collected in what we refer to as an aquifer. And so that's a body of water underground. And so you can think of it inside of rock. Yes, so all the different pores in a rock is with the water. And so Barbados Water Authority, we locate this water in these specific areas and we drill holes, we drill wells, and we drill boreholes. So these wells are large diameter, so say maybe like 3 feet, and boreholes can be like 18 inches. And so we have these wells and boreholes across the island, and we pump water from there. So we install our pumps, and then we can take water from about 300 feet below the surface and all the way up to the surface, and then through a sanitation process, treatment. And then it is collected in our reservoirs, and then it moves to your homes. So it can take a very long time. And in this process, this pathway, really, there are a lot of options for it to get contaminated. And so that's one of the reasons that we have such a stringent testing protocol at Water Authority. And Nicole can tell you more about that.
And I'm going to definitely get to that too, because I don't know about you. I know all of us just push our mouths right up to the top, especially when you're at school, and drink water straight from the pipe, and nothing don't happen. But I want to remind our viewers, 228-5563 or 228-5562. We are giving away last week, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, because I wasn't here for a bit. We gave away a lemon tree, and it actually had some blossoms and lemons on it. It's a dwarf lemon tree. Today it's a lime tree, and I'm going to show some pictures. Lime tree today giveaway, and we got some questions for you. It's going to be on water conservation. That's the lime tree. And we got some fresh herbs that we're going to give away: parsley, sage, rosemary, and some thyme. We're going to give them to you because we want you to start your food security in your backyard, and we're going to need some water to wet those plants. And we want you to understand now what water conservation is all about, because instead of you just turning on the pipe and wetting these plants, perhaps there's something that you can do with the water that you rinse your vegetables off in a bucket. But I'm not going to give away anything. Your questions today will be based on water conservation. All I want, 2 water conservation tips from each caller. 2 water conservation tips, and the trees are yours, the fresh herbs are yours to carry home, put in your backyard, have your own limes, and hopefully in another 2 weeks I'm going to give you the dwarf breadfruit trees, so that when the lime trees bear and the breadfruit bear, you got pickled breadfruit. So let's go now to Nicole Austin quickly, and Ilona, coming to you because I want to marry now the projects as to it relates now to the water aspect of things, because we know we're water scarce country, and the GCF is all about climate change, water conservation, resilience, mitigation, etc. Nicole, your job now is water quality technologist. Lord mercy, we got a phone call already. Okay, hold on a second. I'll call her. People want these trees. Let Nicole explain a little bit about water quality in Barbados. Yes, we have some areas that water is a little discolored, but the process of the water quality, testing it, assure Barbadians that when you put your mouth onto that tap line, it is safe. Tell us your role.
Hi, good morning, everyone. What we do at Barbados Water Authority has started with the zoning policy, where we protect where the wells are located. So we have the zone policy that came into 1963. So you have zone 1, where all of our wells are. We test there every month. All the wells, ourselves and members from the Environmental Protection Department, we make sure we go monthly to check the source of the wells. We also have water quality officers out in the field doing 50 tests during every week. They go to different sample points on the island, as well as the members of the Environmental Health Department from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. They also have their own zones where they go to do their water quality testing within the system. So you will see them collecting water samples from nurseries, from gas stations. So they're checking along the distribution, and they carry their bottles to the Best of Santa's public health lab to make sure that everything is safe and secure along the distribution system. So that is why you can go to a tap and you could drink, as Joyanne said, because I do that sometimes when I'm out in the field. Just go to a tap because I forgot my water bottle. I'm like that.
I mean, you
So
drink it
you
straight from the
need to
pipe.
test. Yes, drink straight from the pipe. So we have those tests along the way, the distribution system, and then with the community tanks that are out, we get a filling schedule from the water tank coordination unit regarding how often these tanks have been filled, what is going on in the system every single week, so that we know how often these tanks are being used, so that we can do testing based off of that information that comes in. So we do a thorough testing of those tanks every 3 months, but based off of the filling schedule that comes from the tanker unit, we then know what has to be done with each tank out in the field because there are a good set out there. So we are
Okay.
making sure that everything is secure.
All
Yes,
right, we're going to take this call because we don't know if they're on a cell phone. So, and there's more calls coming
we
in.
understand.
Good morning, Face It and Fix It. I would love to water conservation tips. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I can barely hear you, but good morning.
Good morning.
Good, I can hear you. Two water conservation tips. It would be good if one of them could relate to how to water your plants with some recycled water, but let's hear what you have to say.
When when the rainfall catch water to water the plant.
Okay, give me another one.
Hello?
Give me another water conservation tip. How can you conserve water?
Um eh,
Water Authority, you got a lot of work to do educating the public because this shows me that people don't know how to, but let's give you another try. Come on, one more.
um
When you at home and you're
hello?
doing your duties, I'm giving you a hint.
Turn
When
off
you're
the
at
water.
home,
You can turn off the water when you go to brush your teeth.
mm-hmm, yes, but I
Yeah.
hope you turn it back on when you want rinsed, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you, all right, ding, 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 ding. You're the winner. We're going to give you that lime tree. Do not hang up. We need to get your name off the air. We need to get your, well, just your basic information. And so that you can take it then to Nature's Bloom. This is New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden at Sky Mall. That's the plant shop. They have all the trees there. Remember, the trees are sponsored by ProSource, and I want to thank them too. And again, New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden. Take your ID card, and you need to stay on the air. I hope that they do have the person. So we need your name, otherwise, Jamie Paul may go and pick it up. Well, all right. I'm hearing now from the producer that the person unfortunately hung up. You need to call back the producer. You need to give your name,
Got a lime tree.
and you need to give your information so that you can collect it safely. So for other callers, again, yes, we're going to give away another lime tree and some fresh herbs. That particular giveaway was the lime tree. Apparently, I understand it will bear limes in about less than a year. It is a dwarf lime tree. The idea here is to eat a little faster. Nobody wants to wait 5-6 years probably to eat some food. Well, they can't and they shouldn't. So this is the whole idea. Get food that can produce faster. Dwarf trees is the thing, is the way to go, and this is why we're doing it here on Face It and Fix It. So continue your calls. We need another caller. We will give away some more trees. Let's get back now. Let's go to Elon, Dr. Elon Cadogan. So I have to clear my throat, and nobody's here to give me some water. But let's hear about the project as it relates to the fact that we are water scarce. We want Barbadians to conserve water. Remind Barbadians the role that 5Cs is playing with some of these projects in an effort to make this happen, to help the Barbados Water Authority in this regard.
Hey, thanks for the question, Joya. And it's very good to see my colleagues here, sharing the screen and, we finally got the chance to do this. And it just goes to show, the close relationship that we have, between the Barbados Water Authority, the government of Barbados, and the CARICOM Climate Change Center, or as we know now, the 5Cs. I remember the call that we had 2 weeks ago. And really, actually, when it comes now to talking about water conservation, and working with the entities in this situation in Barbados Water Authority, basically, we just were trying to, like, through this program, educate the general public about things that they can be doing, because at the end of the day, as Jamie would have mentioned, there is no additional water. We have to deal with the resources that we have. Yes, we are within the top 15 most water scarce countries as declared by the UN. So we have to, as citizens, start by changing our activities, changing our behavior. In the previous session just now, it is something that's repeating, as repetitive. When Dr. Douglas, from the Center for Biosecurity Studies, when he was talking about, people changing the behavior to know what properly shoes before they go into the pig pen, and having dedicated shoes for the pig pen. It's all of these small changes and small behaviors that we are actually trying to, work with Barbados and say, well, you know what, climate change is real. These things are real. Water scarcity is real. We're in the top 15 most water scarce countries. So we need to ensure that we do our part, and basically to work and support all the activities that the governments are doing across the region, in CARICOM, when it comes to water adaptation and mitigation, or climate change adaptation and mitigation. And that's our role to play. Our role is to ensure we provide what we can do and support the Barbados Water Authority and the government of Barbados in their water conservation campaign.
Well, I must say that the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, that Barbadians in the Caribbean now know as 5Cs, and remember that was the question, and somebody said, is it 5Cs, what does it stand for? And they rolled it off, and I think that's really good that they do know about that organization and the good work that they're doing. Jamie, back to you about rainfall. Now, Barbadians may not always relate to the whole climate change process in terms of what is happening. Some people don't actually even believe in it, and hopefully that's something that they would change as they recognize that we're having either stronger storms or heavy rainfall, but short. Which people feel as soon as you rainfall that you got water. But in particular, you have longer droughts. Now, how much rainfall does Barbados actually need every year, so that, and I can break it down, Barbadians, if the rainfall in 2020, it ain't meaning it coming to you in your thing in 2020. There's a projection for 2021. So let's say 2020, not a lot, 2021. I want Jamie to break it down as to the end result. And I want Jamie to explain to Barbadians how much do we actually need in the system and what happens when there is a shortfall.
Okay. Let's see. So let's start with the end. When there's a shortfall, yes, we immediately begin to see the reduction in the water levels in the well. We see an increase in salt content in the coastal wells. So we have interior wells and we have coastal wells. And the coastal wells it's a very special breed. You're not necessarily going to see a reduction in the water level, so the availability of water itself, but we will see a reduction in the availability of fresh water.
As in
So we will
rainwater.
Yes, so
Okay.
because less rain is falling, so we have less recharge into the aquifer. So that's what it's called. As when
Okay.
you hear people talking about, oh, we're not getting enough recharge, it's the rain that's falling and that's percolating the soil, percolating the limestone, and making its way to the water table.
All right, but
And so when
Jamie, gotta stick a pin right there. We gotta take a quick break because I know this sounds like a longer explanation, and I want to do it without the break. So let's take a quick break and come right back. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. If you are now joining us, we are speaking with Dr. Elon Duggan, GCF National Project Coordinator, Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, Jamie Paul, hydrogeologist, Barbados Water Authority, and Nicole Austin, Water Quality Technologist, BWA. I want to get this caller because so many people are calling and our viewers obviously come first. So let's just get this caller to answer this question. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Okay, can you give me 2 water conservation tips that we have not used yet? You can't repeat anything that went out there just now.
When you're washing, by the washing machine, one load. And the rainwater, feed the chickens and the stock with, and wash your car with.
Okay, so when you say you're washing 1 load, I hope you're pelting the blacks and the whites and everything in.
Instead of using small loads, use one big load and done.
All right. Well, I will definitely declare you, if Jamie and Nicole approve, you accept those answers? Okay, ding, 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 ding. You are a winner. Stay on the line. Give your information to the producer, and you need then to collect your plants from New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden, compliments of ProSource Limited. Now, Jamie, back to how much water do we need to survive in this country? How much rainfall do we need? And how does this whole thing happen? You talk about percolating and somebody one of his crop over. No, not that type of percolation.
Yes, the percolation I'm speaking about is movement of water as rainfall, or even you pouring water on the surface, just movement of water from the surface through the soil, through the limestone, and making its way down to the water table in an aquifer. And I was speaking about what we are looking at in the coastal aquifers and what we face there, which is saltwater intrusion. So what I was saying was that even though we would be pumping, and with reduction in rainfall, we wouldn't see necessarily a drop of a reduction in water level. We would see a reduction in the availability of fresh water. So you have to think of it as the fresh water from the rain coming to sit on the salt water coming up from the sea. And so if you continue to pump, and your freshwater lens is just going to reduce. And in that space, we know nature does not like a vacuum. Salt water comes in and fills right up. And we end up having less and less and less of the fresh water available and more salt water. So we at Water Authority, we have to continue to monitor what we pump. We have to ensure that we're not over pumping. We have to continue to do more water quality testing to ensure that our chloride levels that we are pumping to the public is below the WHO limit. And it's a very tricky process. So that's what we see on our coastal aquifers, in our internal aquifers, our interior wells. We see a reduction in water level because they kind of operate similar to a cup. So rain falls, it fills up in this cup, and we pump and we pump, and we see a reduction in water level. And when we can't just continue to pump until there's none there, because then that has an impact on the surface. It can lead to sinkholes. It can lead to a loss of the land itself. So we have to make sure it's a very delicate balance as to what Barbados Water Authority can pump and take out of the aquifer and send to the public.
So when we hear people in the north speaking about water tasting a little salty, basically what then is happening, when you say the lens, fresh water floats on top of salt water, basically.
Yes.
So when you dip in and dip in and dip in and dip in, you break that separation where you don't move from the water being fresh and you dip down. Now this is fresh, this is the salt, it comes together and all of a sudden this goes and it leaves then salt water. What happens when the lens is broken and you go strictly down to salt water? What happens with that well, and what happens?
Well, okay, so we would end up with brackish water first. So, that's the mixing. So it's called a mixing zone. And that can go from, well, that can go from 1,000 microsiemens per centimeter and go all the way up to 5,000. And that water is available. It can be used for certain things, certain types of agriculture, but not too salty. But for the most part, we can't use that water. And if we end up with water that is very salty, we have to shut down. We have to shut down the well. We have to shut down pumping from that location. It's a huge loss to the island. Or we have to purchase a desalination plant, install it there, and then that's a fresh another set of money that we have to find to be able to produce water to send to the public. So it's, imagine, one of our wells, we would completely lose it, and that would be a whole section of the island that would not be able to receive water. And we can't let that happen.
You see, this is why it is so important, especially with the water trucks. A lot of them came because of GCF, some of the monies that went towards the purchasing. I think the public, when you are using water, here's a classic example. Nobody knows how much water you're using in your house. You're washing, you're cooking, you're washing down everything. And then next door, they may be doing the same thing. All of that adds up. This is why I chose water conservation, and will probably continue to choose water conservation, because that lens that we speak about, the less water you use, the less water you're going to have to pump, which means it could slow down the process and the lens may not then break. Now, this is not a water authority problem. This is a public concern. In other words, people go like, oh, the BWA needs to do this and they need to do that. True. But the public responsibility now, individually, slow down. Don't use too much. Don't overuse it. Because, as you would always say, Jamie, it's not a never-ending resource. At some point, it will go. Let's take this caller quickly, and then I get back to Nicole about the community tanks. Good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Good.
You conserving water?
Yes.
All right.
You take a bath instead of a shower, and you turn off the tap while you're brushing your teeth.
Okay, well, the tap came already. We need 2 fresh water conservation tips, and I personally will not accept, when you say take a bath instead of a shower, you mean bathing out of a bucket with a sponge, or you mean in a bathtub?
With a sponge, you turn off the water while bathing, while you soak your skin, and then you turn it back on.
Did we have that one? Did we have that one before? We had the brushing of the teeth. We'll accept the one. Bathing, turn off the water while you're bathing, but you can't use the brushing of your teeth. That's been used. Let's go again.
Oh.
Come on down. You can do this. What do you do at home that you realize that you got this pipe on too long?
You check to make sure that you do that. The taps don't drip. That if you see them dripping, you check to check the washers or something like that.
All right. So change the washers and just don't let drip.
Yeah.
Not only water conservation, but if you don't change it, it can be $5,000 of your money too. But gone down the drain as well, because the billing department will be billing you. Stay on the line, Jamie and Nicole. They accept your answers, and we'll give you some fresh herb trees. I don't think we're doing more limes. We did 2 limes, and 1 lime, then the lime and the herbs, and we'll do the fresh herbs for you. Leave your name and information, contact information with the producer. The name of the store is a pretty long name. It's New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden. You can't miss it in Sky Mall, the mall that has all those different stores, right by the car wash. And you go down there, and Mr. McFarland, really good man, will obviously sort you out. Again, New Horizon Nature's Bloom Garden is located at Sky Mall, and these trees have been purchased and sponsored for you by ProSource Limited. That company that put out all of those garbage cans, they're actually hoping that you use the old garbage cans, repurpose them, and plant something to eat. So Nicole, we're going on to water quality. Number of Barbadians, as you know, because of the fact that they might not be able to get water on a regular basis in parts of rural Barbados, again, due to climate change, drought-like conditions. History has shown that there are areas that are more prone to drought because they're located higher up. Areas in St. Joseph, parts of the north, Hillaby, certainly a classic area that people don't get water. The tanks that we see as we drive around Barbados that some Barbadians have to use. Concern is, are these tanks being checked for water quality? Please assure those users of the tanks that it is safe. Because I'm telling you this, and you don't have
Yes.
to take my word. If Nicole is on the job, them things safe. But go ahead. Go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you, Joyanne. Yes, what we have, what I would like the customers in those areas to know, you have a relationship with the water tanker drivers that are coming out there. If you have any concerns, please let them know so that they can let us know. However, as I stated earlier, we get information from the water tank coordination unit where they let us know how often these tanks are being used, what's the filling schedule, and then based off of that information. So say for example, a tank is not being used, they went out and filled it today, and then next week they or over the weekend when they went in to check, it is still at that same level. To me, that is when I get that information on Tuesday, I'm there thinking I need to go and check that tank. We need to go out there and see what is going on because this has been sitting there, no one is using it. What is going on? Then you go to the area, you find out that they have no water running through their pipes, so they're not really using the tank. So we go to check, we make sure we check for the chlorine residual, which is the fighting power of disinfection to make sure that the bacteria does not grow. And so we want to check to make sure that it's still at a satisfactory level. If it's not, we highlight the tanker unit that this tank will need to be taken out of service in order for sanitization to be done or even to be removed and possibly put down a new tank. So that is how we are working with the tanker unit as well as the customers in the area. Please don't hesitate to call. So if it smells funny, don't hesitate to call because we are going to respond. We will be there.
Fantastic. Nicole, Jamie, I don't recall if we had the amount of rainfall that we would need to satisfy the needs of a country, of this country. I don't remember if you gave us a figure.
No, I didn't give a
Okay.
figure. I didn't give a figure because remember we are our population continues to grow, and I can't specifically put down and say a figure because it can change. Yes, and remember we have a lot of different moving parts with water authority, and part of the issue, we don't want to say we need a particular amount because we have a certain amount of leakage. We don't want to say we have a particular amount because we have a certain amount of expected tourist arrivals, etc., or availability for tourism. We know. I can't really put it out there. Let's put it out there.
But there is a
Let's put it
range. I mean, from what I remember, it was like about 1,300 millimeters of rain. And don't let the millimeters throw you. It's a different kind of calculation. But we do have to take a break. When we come back, more with GCF Fridays after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We wish to remind our viewers that we are standing by to join a press conference by the Honorable Dale Marshall QC, the Attorney General for this country, and we expect that to start around 11:30, but we will continue our show until we get the word that we need to join this conference. Elon, my friend, Dr. Cadogan, how important is it for GCF to push or to assist the Barbados Water Authority with its water conservation programs? Because, as you know, we are water scarce. Jamie and Nicole explained a lot of the behind the scenes as it relates to how water gets here. And we know that we're a water scarce country. How important is it for the Barbados Water Authority to embark on a massive water conservation campaign?
John, well, I think that, I think it's important for the 5Cs to assist the government of Barbados through the Barbados Water Authority in this, in what they're trying to do in terms of educate the public and how they can conserve water. We had all the evidence here presented this morning to basically show that, Barbados is a water scarce country, and we need every single person in Barbados, visitors, as Jimmy mentioned before, residents of Barbados, persons just passing through, to understand that we do have small resources of water available in Barbados. Jimmy would have also mentioned the fact that she mentioned the recharge rate. And the recharge rate, basically, right now, Barbados has a negative recharge rate because basically abstracting water faster and it can be filled up. The same example that Jimmy gave just now with the salinity levels, etc. So basically, the mandate at the CARICOM committee, or the 5Cs that we have, is to support all CARICOM community, or CARICOM countries in their climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. It's just that, well, in Barbados right now, the first project approved by the GCF and Barbados was a water sector project. So it is in that vein that it is so important that, our Barbados recognizes how important it is that they put, water as one of their first projects. Water and energy is one of the first projects to be submitted to the GCF. And of course, the center, being that is a $45 million investment, what, after the project ends, what can be the impact, how can, because yes, the project is 5 or 6 years, but after the project comes to a close, is the investment for the GCF, meaningful? Is it going to be impactful a generation, or 10 years from now, a decade from now, 15 years from now? So of course, it is a public awareness campaign is vital. We had a session 2 weeks ago with the professor from the City University of New York, Dr. Rebecca Shapiro, where she explained, or she basically gave some examples of how they also use media literacy, which is what we're doing right now, to basically educate persons at the mass, in mass communication. You communicate to persons at mass, and you also try to spread the message of climate change, climate adaptation, asking persons to join the climate fight, asking persons even to go back down to the simple idea, the paradigm of, just turning off my faucet, while I brush my teeth, while I lather in the shower, as one of the caller said just now, while I lather in the shower, I turn off the tap and I use my sponge to lather, and then when I want to rinse off, like all these small little things. Imagine everybody's able to save, let's say, 5 gallons additional a day. You're saving 5 gallons a day, each person in Barbados. I mean, that could go a long way. And I just saying 5 gallons because that's a very small benchmark. But I mean, these are the things, these are the ideas, these are the activities, these are the actions is very important, and it has to do with the effectiveness of communication. Because as Dr. Douglas also mentioned in the biosecurity segment, it's not only to hear these things, but it's actually to practice these things as well, because that's the only way we're going to actually get this done. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this coming fight together.
Well, it is important, water conservation. As Jamie, as I said, she always taught me, it's not a never-ending supply. It's not there forever. And I think that it was the late Sir Charles, actually, who told me that he believes that the last war that we will see on Earth will be over water. And that's not impossible if we keep going at this rate and not conserving it. So our viewers and the water conservation, I mean, we stopped the giveaways for today, but I mean, because we want to do this every 2 weeks. If we do get a last minute call, we may accept it, but we're trying to hold off because we have 3 winners already. The water conservation tips. I didn't hear anybody saying that, if you're washing your vegetables off in a basin of water. Perhaps you can use that water to water the same trees that we just won. So I'm hoping that your plants at home, the ice that you use after, or you take out too much from the ice machine, don't throw it down the sink, things like that. Only this morning, as Sky was taking her shower, and of course you want your hot water to mix with the cold. Classic case of wasting water, and all y'all guilty. So everybody who listening to me know that nobody ain't jumping into the cold shower. Everybody's standing up there, turn on the shower, gone by the sink, gone to get the towel, taking off the clothes, water still running because the hot ain't mixed with the cold. Every Bajan who got hot water knows this. So what to do? Here is a simple tip. Get your 5-gallon bucket of water and put it under the shower. Catch that water until it mixes. I don't want going to cold water, I know. But you put it, and I said to, Sky, we got to remember, keep the bucket in the shower or just go for it by the washing machine or wherever you keep it. And throw that water in your washing machine to wash your clothes. The bills at the Barbados Water Authority, the rates, you must all know, everybody, most people must have been hit by a leak in terms of what it looks like, in terms of the reflection of a bill. For me, it was a reminder too, it is $5,000 of your money in some cases, or 5 minutes of your time to check for a leak. And all you have to do is to go outside your house. When you reverse that car or you walking because you're catching the bus, look down at the meter. Turn off everything on the inside. Glimpse down at the meter. If that meter is moving, if those digits are moving, you have a leak because you know that you ain't left nothing on. Nobody at home. Shut it off at the ball valve. Go and do your work. Call a plumber by the time you get home and find this leak. So we're continuing on with our conversation until we are told different. I understand by the World Health Organization, Jamie, that we need about 165 liters of water per day per person. Is that correct? If we can meet that, then we're not seen as water scarce. But we don't really have that.
No, we don't have that. We're not able to produce that, and so that's why we're seen as water scarce. We need to make sure that every person in Barbados has enough water to bathe, to cook, to sanitize, to do laundry, every possible thing that you can think about that you need water for. We need to ensure that all Barbadians need that. And unfortunately, we continue to find it difficult to produce this water. And what we would like the public to realize is that it's not just Barbados Water Authority. It's not us alone that
Jimmy,
are yes.
Apparently, just like how they're doing CNN, the Attorney General is now on. I'm going to have to thank everybody so much. We're going to have to bring you back on. We're going to join now live the press conference with the Attorney General of Barbados.